Fools, welcome back to another Formula Fools podcast. I'm David, your guide through the twists and turns, and with me is Skin, a man who made a very bold statement this morning when he said the Canadian Grand Prix wasn't that good.
I don't remember saying that.
No, you didn't. I'm over-exaggerating just for the intro.
I think you're putting words in my mouth.
Yeah. From pit lane antics to racing riddles, we're here to make you laugh and question your sanity. Literally. Sit back, buckle up. It's time for Formula Fools. That sound grab doesn't work. Let's add it in post. Skin react because you hate it.
I hate that sound grab. That's terrible.
Good. That's acting 101 there. Take notes, Charlie. Canadian GP was last weekend. We definitely haven't missed 2 weeks. See how I covered that one up, Skin?
Yeah, well done. Well done.
We've not been away at all. So it was last weekend. Mm-hmm. We're going to get on to our thoughts in a minute, but first, we've got a hot lap recap with Ryan Smith. Let's hope this button works.
Come on, Skin. It's that time in the show for the hot lap recap. Let's go. The race is over. It's that time in the show for the hot lap recap. Let's go.
You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Yep.
I am not sure which sound grab I hate more.
The one that didn't work or that one? Okay, Ryan's hot lap recap. Let's go.
Hello, chaps. Now, I come to you today from the comfort of a very tall pole. There's the ground. I'm up high. I'm away with the kids on an outdoor activity break. We've been kayaking, we've been paddleboarding.
It's great.
And the height of British summertime, we've been in the sunshine, and then we've been in the rain where it's pissed it down. Sounds familiar, doesn't it, to a certain Canadian Grand Prix? So let's strap in for a hot lap recap that is as unpredictable as the weather in Montreal, okay? And we are off. In a race that had more twists and turns than a soap opera, Red Bull's Max Verstappen clinched victory at the Canadian Grand Prix, navigating a wet, dry roller coaster that turned into a 5-star battle royale in the final 10 laps. Verstappen, showing why he's the reigning champ, managed a restart after the safety car with 11 laps to go, bolting into the lead that left everyone else eating his spray. And Lando Norris, who had led the race twice before earlier, found himself playing catch-up after pitting later than Verstappen. And despite his best efforts, Norris couldn't reel in the Dutchman and had to settle for second place, which was a valiant effort, but as they say, close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. George Russell, starting from his first pole position in nearly 2 years, had a race that was more up and down, had more ups and downs than David's underwear when Williams won points. He was leading the race in the early laps, but it turned into a series of what-ifs after a couple of really key errors. He managed to pass his teammate Lewis Hamilton with 3 laps to go to snag the final podium spot, but you could almost hear him say, "if only," as an end result. Now, Hamilton took 4th place, just ahead of McLaren's Oscar Piastri. The young Aussie showed his mettle, but couldn't quite keep the silver arrows at bay. Fernando Alonso in his Aston Martin rounded out the top 6, proving that age is just a number when you've still got skill to burn. Now, Verstappen's win, his 6th in 9 races this year, ended his championship lead to a whopping 56 points over Ferrari's Charles Leclerc, who had a race to forget with a double retirement for the Italian team. It was a stark reminder that in F1, the only certainty is uncertainty. There you go, stop the clock. Whew, there we go. Now, weren't those final 11 laps a masterclass in strategy and nerve? A bit like being this high up in the sky. Now, seeing Mercedes pit both Russell and Hamilton for fresh tyres under the safety car gave them that amazing 10-lap advantage over Verstappen and McLaren's. It was just brilliant. But just as Russell was gearing up for a challenge, he got a bit too ambitious, didn't he? Trying to pass Piastri on the outside of that final chicane. It was a race that had everything: drama, strategy, and a bit of heartbreak. I'll tell you what, it's my favourite race of the season so far. What do you think? So, that's what I love about the Canadian Grand Prix. It was a reminder that in Formula One, it's never over until that checkered flag waves. That's a wrap on today's Hot Lap Recap, folks. Join me, Ryan, next time where we relive the action of Spain for more high-octane tales at the F1 circus. I'll see you next time, chaps.
It's pretty high up.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. I think they're in Germany or something like that.
Okay, as you do.
Yeah, Ryan.
Lovely.
Yeah. What do you reckon, Skin?
I reckon that was a nice summary of the Grand Prix, as always. Yeah. He's quite good at doing that.
Yeah. He's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's coming in September, July. So he's coming some point this year, so he might.
Okay.
He could take our jobs.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah.
All right, I look forward to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I definitely didn't say the Canadian Grand Prix sucked or whatever you said.
You didn't.
I said.
No. I'm over exaggerating.
Yeah, but I guess as someone who doesn't know that much about Formula One, and Ryan said sort of the last 10 laps were fantastic strategy and stuff, and I probably just didn't really follow it all that well because I'm a fool. But yeah, so from your perspective, why, like, you've been raving about it ever since, as Ryan said.
Yeah, since Sunday the other day.
Exactly. As the best race of the season. Why is that? Why would you say it's the best race of the season?
Because, well, Max didn't qualify on pole, which was brilliant. We had someone else qualifying first, which was George.
Yep.
We had wet weather, which meant that strategy's out the window because, like, when it's a dry race, you've got to use 2 tires, whereas when it's a wet race, you can do whatever you want. There are no tire restrictions. You could run wets all the way or inters all the way, whatever you want.
Really?
Yeah. No, they for safety reasons, they have to throw it out the window. So you can do what you want with your tires.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Sorry. Wait, if you started on a set of wet tires,
yep,
other than the tires deteriorating, there's nothing stopping you from just doing the whole thing without pitting?
I think you still have to stop, but you don't need to change tires when you stop.
Yeah.
So, no, you do have to change tires, but you don't have to change to a different set. Like, you don't have to go from wets to intermediates or wets to dries or anything.
Gotcha.
So you could stay on that same strategy.
Gotcha.
So that makes it a lot more interesting. It means that you don't have to worry about tires as much. This race was interesting though, because we did still have to worry about tires because it started wet, then it got dry, then it rained again, then it got dry again. So it was like a fucking roller coaster. We had Charles Leclerc out on track on hard, slick tires while everyone else was on wets. And like, he was sliding all over the place. So yeah. You've got things like that happening. You've got crashes. You've got people out of position, like Checo starting like P18. Charles was starting low down and Carlos was starting low down, like both qualified outside of the top 10. You had Williams obviously putting on a fucking masterclass. Looked like we were going to get good points. We'll get onto that in a second. Skin, come on. You can't deny it. We were looking fucking racy. Even Logan Sargent qualified like 13th or 14th.
Disc, you just can't say they put on a masterclass when they had a double DNF.
Baby.
Neither of them finished the race, let alone in the points.
Right, let's do Williams now then. Okay. Sargent didn't have a masterclass, but he was going well and he could have snagged a point or two if he had just, not crashed into the wall. So, okay, that is his fault, okay? He sucks, but let's face it, Carlos is going to be in that car next year. Logan will be gone and we won't have a shit driver. Alex, on the other hand, was running really well.
You can't just throw that out there either. That's far from locked in, isn't it?
Yeah, it's far from locked in, but in my head it's locked in.
Okay.
I've been having wet dreams for weeks about that one, Skin.
Okay.
Yeah, you heard what Ryan said. Sure. I love Williams.
Yeah, okay. I know you love Williams.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, so Alex, he had a fucking brilliant race, okay? He was like P7 or 8 or something, or maybe 9 at that point. But he was like looking really good. And then Carlos span and took him out by accident. Like, it wasn't Carlos's fault. It was no one's fault. But like, if Carlos didn't spin in front, then Alex would have finished P7 or 8. Like, he was up there for it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So he was doing good. And the double overtake into the last corner. Tempting
Is that
fate
that
with
thing where he threaded the needle?
Yeah.
Okay, that was sick.
Yeah.
That was very cool.
Exactly.
But you still can't call it a Williams masterclass when no one finished.
It was a Williams masterclass. I'm calling it. Every Williams fan would back me.
Okay.
It's because we all love Williams.
Yeah, great.
Talking about that though, about Williams like actually being better than what they normally are at other tracks and what they're probably going to like at Barcelona, they will probably be back towards the back end of the grid. The rain also does that. It makes the cars a lot more it makes the racing a lot more neutral, which is probably why we saw George get pole, is because we had different circumstances with the weather and with the wet and things like that. Because you can't go full power, it means you can't carry as much speed into the corners, you can't use your brakes as precise as you can in the dry. So everyone is kind of a bit more neutralized. Mm-hmm. So that's why we saw Mercedes challenging and Williams doing better in the first 5-6 laps, getting up to P4 or whatever it was. Like, we saw cars outperforming where they normally are, and you see drivers skill a lot more in them kind of conditions.
Okay.
So yeah.
Sure. And then toward the back end of the race, it was actually quite tight.
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
hasn't happened that much this season.
No. Well, that was
Like
all.
even the Australian Grand Prix when Max. Well, that was the first time I saw a
Brake
race,
pull,
when Max didn't win.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is going to be exciting.
Yeah.
And then was
And then
it
Carlos,
Science just
dominated.
flogged everyone.
Yeah.
So it was sort of a bit different to that. Like,
But even that,
heading into the last couple of laps, you're like, oh, I'm not actually sure what's going to happen.
Yeah.
That was a nice feeling.
That was a very nice feeling because, genuinely all of it, in them last 10 laps, all of them top 5 could have won the race. But we said Australia was probably one of the best races of the season because we expected Max to dominate. And the Canadian Grand Prix, especially with practice and qualifying and everything, confirmed that the McLaren and the Ferrari updates are working and they're working better than the Red Bull updates that they've brought. I think it was James Allison, who we spoke about on the last podcast from Mercedes. He was quoted saying that the Red Bull upgrade is actually a downgrade and they think that Red Bull have gone backwards with their upgrade. Yeah, to which Christian Horner said some pretty harsh words this weekend already. So, but even if it has made them just stay stationary instead of going backwards, it's definitely tighter for the rest of the field. So I think we've actually got a season on here. I think we're going to see a few more winners this season, and hopefully in the next 3 races.
Yeah, okay.
But the McLaren and Ferrari updates. Obviously, it's really hard to see here because Ferrari sucked shit. Like, didn't even qualify in the top 10 and then both had to retire the cars. Their Ferrari updates are looking good and will probably be better at Barcelona. Just to throw that one out there. But yeah, first thing I wrote down was K-Mag Hulkenberg in the wets on a charge, just smashed it. I think K-Mag got up to P4 by lap 6 or something, and then came in the pits and his pit crew weren't ready, didn't have the tyres. And so he basically went to the back of the grid.
That is one of the great gags, isn't it? Call the driver into the pits and not have anything ready.
Well, they didn't actually call him into the pits. They asked if he wanted to pit and then he didn't respond or he responded really late. So they were like just getting the tyres ready to get out to him. Right. So it was like a real late call from both the team and the driver.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's what cooked him. But can you still explain to me? So he started on the wet tyres. Everyone else was on intermediates. So he's just gassing it on a wet track so much faster than everyone else. That's wonderful. Yeah. Makes up all these positions. And then as it started to dry out a bit, why did he have to pit so much earlier? Like, what is it about wet tyres that made them deteriorate so much faster in the drier condition?
So it's not that wet tyres will deteriorate. So it's all about the tread size. So if you've got thicker tread on a wet tyre versus an intermediate tyre, so it means they're going to get rid of spray faster. So if you ran a wet down a straight on its own, you would see crazy amount of spray and kind of looks like a cloud of smoke coming out the back of the car. Whereas if you run an intermediate, it would be a lot less. So it means that you've got more surface area hitting the tarmac and gripping through corners. That's all an intermediate does versus a wet. The reason they put wets on was because they knew that at the beginning of the race especially, there was going to be a lot of stagnant water. So for the first few laps before cars were driving over the racing line and clearing a dry patch or a dry line or whatever, they knew that they were going to have speed advantage, and especially like down the back straight, whereas other cars would want to just stick to that racing line, they could go off the racing line onto the wet stuff and they would have more grip because they've got less surface area and it's going to like separate the water more so they can grip the track better. As the dry line appears, you've then got less surface area touching tarmac on a drying track. So it's not that they're deteriorating, it's just that they're going to be significantly slower than intermediate tyres because intermediate tyres are going to grip better to the surface. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Dev.
It's okay. So yeah, that's basically why. So that's also why everyone else started on the inters, is because they knew the track was going to dry fairly quick and they wanted to be on the right tyre for that middle kind of stint and the transition to dry if it was going to happen. Whereas Haas were just like, let's take a gamble. Like, we're starting low back. We may as well like risk it, see where we can get.
All right.
But everyone was flying off the track. I wrote down Lewis and Alonso for the early laps. I think in between lap 1 and 6 or 1 and 7 or something. Both of them two went off or had like little moments. I think Lando, Carlos obviously, and Max also like went wide or like locked up into the first braking zone. So yeah, everyone was just all over the place and just going crazy. Mm-hmm. Danny Rick had a 5-second penalty for jumping the start, even though it looks like he didn't move. Did you see the replay of it?
Yeah, I went back and watched it
Yeah.
pretty closely. It's weird.
He doesn't move.
Yeah.
Like, I swear he doesn't move.
Yeah, I don't entirely understand. Isn't there some rule about, like, don't they try and account for the fastest reaction speed a human can have or something? Like, if you start moving like, too soon after the lights go out, so that you couldn't possibly have been reacting to the lights.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm making that up.
I mean, that does sound like something they would put in the rule book, which is probably what it was. But I always thought there's like a yellow painted line on the grid box, and if your wheel is on the painted yellow line and then it goes off the yellow painted line, that's a jump start because you've left it before, and that's like, there's a certain like time period on that. That's what I thought it was, but he genuinely doesn't move, so it could well be what you've just said there.
Okay.
Norris had, like, we've seen Norris doing really well. Obviously, he won in Miami. He did really well in Monaco. McLaren's just looking on fire, and then here, obviously, did really well. Probably on for a win. Like, could have been his second ever race win. At one point, it was looking like McLaren would smash in it, but then the first safety car that came out kind of. It didn't screw him, but he had to do a different strategy because he missed the pit lane. So like he was driving down the back straight, safety car was dropped as he was going through the chicane. So he couldn't then dive in the pits and get a cheap pit stop. Okay. Safety car like collected him up and then he had to go slow around, and then everyone else was able to catch him after they've pitted. So then
on newer tires.
On the newer tires.
Okay.
So
sorry, was this early in the race?
This was the very first safety car.
So like, what was that? Sargent crashing out or something?
Yeah. Sargent's crash. Yeah. Williams. Go Williams.
Nice.
But yeah, so him crashing out that safety car coming out at that point meant that everyone could pit straight away, and he had to do a lap behind the safety car before he could go in the pits. And then there was a shot of him like coming out just ahead of Oscar Piastri. So like Max goes through, George goes through, and then Oscar's looks like he's got ahead of him, but there's like the safety car line, and Loris just gets there first. Mm-hmm. They then take a different kind of risk in the second pit stop at the second safety car, where I think they stayed out a lap longer. Or no, sorry, it wasn't a safety car, was it? It was the transition from intermediates to dry tires, where everyone else had pitted to go onto dry tires, and Lando stayed out for like an extra 1 or 2 laps. Yeah. And then as he came out the pits, he was ahead of Max, but Max being on the dry line and having his tires like up to temperature, and Norris being on the wet line with cold tires, he kind of almost binned it and then lost the position to Max and then to George on that same lap.
Right. Okay. So you think he would have been better off pitting earlier? Then?
No. I think that first pit stop like almost ruined the win for him. Like that took it away from him, and then he did everything he could on the second pit stop to get, because I think he was in P4 or 3 or 4 at that point, right. And it put him back up to P2. So I think that second one was guru from McLaren. It was just interesting to see that strategy completely flip on its head for Lando. From pit stop to pit stop, they did 2 different things, just because of track position and things. Mm-hmm. Carlos and Ferrari, they had a humdinger, didn't they? They like we've already said that, Carlos crashed out, and Charles just had a crap car from the get-go. Was complaining that he was losing, I think he said after the race it was 1.5 seconds every straight line that they were doing, which I think at Canada there's 3 DRS points. So 1.5 seconds down each of them, he said he was losing, which is just unreal. And then they had to retire the car because it was just, there was no point running.
Wait, sorry, was that from the early doors? He was losing that just with his engine issues?
Yeah. Right. I think it was lap 2 or 3. He said he came on the radio to complain.
Because then he went rogue with the he put on hard tires when it started raining or something.
So he put on the hard tires when everyone's radar was saying it's going to rain in 3 minutes. Yeah. And then he came out the pits, did 1 lap where I think he went off the track twice, and then it started raining.
Yeah, didn't he lose a minute on that lap or something?
Yeah, it was every corner, it was 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Yeah. It was unreal.
Wait, so did he end up just essentially retiring? He just gave up? It wasn't like his engine got worse. He just lost all that time.
Well, apparently when they put them hard tires on, they did control alt delete kind of thing, restarted the car. Yeah. And apparently that fixed the issue, they said. But so then they kind of put him on them tires, I think, to just have a point of difference, but it didn't end up working out for him. And I think they just retired because he was genuinely way too far off and was never going to pick up any points.
Okay.
Last thing to chat about, I reckon, is the Sergio Perez moment. This won't take long. Sergio Perez sucks and now has a 3-place grid penalty for driving around the track after crashing and having a rear wing hanging off his car. Right. So in Spain, he'll have 3 places taken off of his qualifying for the start of the race.
Right. Okay. So would they have just preferred him to sit there and wait for a crane to lift him out?
The stewards would have, yeah. Okay. Yeah, because if that rear wing had fallen off, then you've got a very big piece of carbon. If a car would have hit that, it could have seriously injured someone.
Gotcha.
So it's very dangerous. Yeah, there's been a load of shit come out around that. Helmut Marko said some rogue stuff and yeah. At the end of the day, it was stupid. Red Bull came on the radio and told him to not cause a red flag to drive back around. So, yeah, they knew what they were doing. They deserved the penalty all day long.
Okay.
Very last thing. Mercedes have brought upgrades that are looking better. They definitely look like they are going to start competing, but they're not looking like they've got drivers that are confident in the car yet. George made a couple of moves, one on Oscar into the final chicane that was just not there. Like it wasn't really anything. And then, I mean, he ended up overtaking him at the same part of the track a few laps later. But yeah, the first overtake he attempted was just nowhere. Mm-hmm. And even Toto Wolff had to come on the radio and kind of, talk to his driver, which is very strange.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just don't think either of them two drivers have confidence in the car.
Okay.
And you wanted to ask about Lewis, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so sort of the end of the race was a bit exciting between them as well, wasn't it? I think George like went off track or something. He fucked something up and Lewis took him there.
That was the Oscar thing.
Yeah. Okay. So that was that same incident. So Lewis got in front of him. Mm-hmm. Why was it so hard for Lewis to stay in front of him and hold him off? Would that have just been a matter of George having newer tyres or having DRS?
They had very similar age tyres. It was that George had mediums and Hamilton was on hards. So just had faster compound. And as the track, when you've got a damp track like that, hard tyres will take longer to heat up than medium tyres. So George would have just been able to like switch his tyres on into a more like a better performative window for his tyres than Lewis would have. So yeah, George would have got speed that way. But also like Lewis just again like had a few moments during this race where he didn't look that confident in the car, like going off track and things like that. I mean, everyone was, but yeah, just both the Mercedes drivers, I think the car's getting better, but the drivers just don't trust it to be better yet.
Okay. Well, that probably ruins my follow-up question a little bit, but I still want to ask it anyway.
Yeah, got it.
So I was assuming it was more to do with like George having DRS.
Okay.
And why is it that you can only use DRS when you're within 1 second of the car in front? Like, would it not be a more exciting race just letting drivers drive as fast as they possibly can? Like if George is less than a second behind Lewis, should they not both just be able to use DRS and see who's faster?
Yep. To that argument, scrap DRS because then they've got the exact same car then. DRS was introduced because we were having cars getting stuck behind another car and then the dirty air would slow them down, ruin the tyres, and they wouldn't be able to overtake. So they decided to introduce DRS so that you could, as a car that is behind another one and wants to overtake, you can use DRS to get the less drag and then make an overtaking move. So if you just give it to the car in front, you're basically just nulling DRS. So then get rid of it. Because we never used to have it up until like 2012, 13, 14, something like that.
Okay.
So yeah, like that argument there is a very valid argument, but it's the exact same argument as people that don't want DRS to be on the cars. If both cars were to have DRS, we would just have constant DRS trains. I think we saw it with Stroll all the way back for like 5 places in the middle part of the race. There was like 6 cars. Or 5 cars or something that were all just following because they all had DRS apart from the lead car.
Okay.
So yeah.
And what would be your preference?
I like DRS. I think keep it as is. I think it's good. They did just announce the new rules and regs for 2026 with the era package. We'll talk about that at a later date because it's a whole thing. And they've gotten rid of DRS and they've introduced X and Y to the front and rear wing. So the front wing also goes down and the rear wing goes up. Trust me, it's fucked. But yeah, that's a whole other subject.
Okay.
Now the main subject of this podcast is what is a triple header. If you are following F1 at the moment, we are about to go into a triple header weekend. So we've got a lot of things for that. Firstly, what does it mean, Skin?
I'm led to believe it means we have 3 races in 3 consecutive weeks.
Bang. Look at you go.
Nice.
You should like do a podcast or something.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll consider it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's exactly what it means. The 3 races we've got is Spain, Circuit de Catalunya this weekend, 20th through to the 23rd of June. The Austrian Grand Prix at the Red Bull Ring, 27th to the 30th of June. And the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, 4th to the 7th of July.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
No, go on.
Are triple headers, like, are they always a thing? Is that,
Yeah.
are they exciting, or is it
Yeah.
is it a big deal, or is
Yeah,
it just an accidental result of tight scheduling, or what?
No, we'll usually get at least 1 a season. Sometimes we'll get 2 a season. With the calendars just getting longer, like having 24 races, it's really difficult to fit 24 race weekends without having these triple headers occasionally and still getting a winter and summer break.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of have to put them together. But also when it's countries like this, where it's like Spain, Austria, England, like it kind of geographically kind of makes sense. It would probably make more sense to go kind of Spain, Monaco, England, or England, Monaco, Spain. That would make way more sense. But, why not go Monaco, Canada, back to Europe? That makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Okay.
Yeah. We get them quite often. The reason there is so much hype at the moment about triple headers is because there's a lot of things that can happen, things that can go wrong, and it can lead to a lot of exciting races, especially for the British Grand Prix, which is going to be the end of the triple header.
Okay.
So that last race of every triple header is always, like, usually there's a bit more high, like it builds to that last one.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote down a few things that is going to make the team struggle over the next few weeks. Logistical challenges, just literally transporting the cars from one race to the other. So like if you win on a Sunday evening, you need to break your cars down, break your garage down, everything, get it on the trucks. And that needs to be heading straight to Austria Sunday evening before you go to bed. Like, them trucks need to be leaving. So logistically, this is going to be a crazy few weeks for the teams, which leads to the next one, fatigue and stress. The mechanics, the engineers, the drivers, everyone involved in the team feels a lot of pressure and they get a lot of fatigue during a triple header. There's a lot of travel involved. There's a lot of fast turnarounds, not a lot of simulator time. So like ahead of Canada, we had 2 weeks, or we had a week break. So there was kind of like a full week after Monaco and a full week before the Canadian Grand Prix. You could go back to England, jump on your sim, get some practice laps in if you want to, set the car up before you get to the track. A lot harder to do that. Drivers will still probably do it, but you're not going to get as many hours in the sim.
Mm-hmm.
Car maintenance. There's a few things around this. Obviously, with limited time between races, teams have to make sure they've got everything in order for the next race. So if you have a crash in Spain this weekend and you've got limited parts on, let's just say, the suspension, you've got to make sure going into Austria that you've got more parts either coming from the factory or you've got enough parts to make it work at the next one and then the following one. Obviously, like we've already seen it this year, Williams crashing in Australia.
Yeah.
Logan Sargent didn't get to race the following race in Japan because we only raced one car in Australia and we only raced one car in Japan because we only had one good chassis. Or no, did he race in Japan and he just had a repaired chassis, which was a bit dodgy? Can't remember. But yeah, Williams have already had dramas and troubles with parts for the car. So triple header, even more emphasized, because if a driver crashes in free practice 1 or qualifying in Spain, that could have knock-on effects through to the following week and even more knock-on effects going through to Silverstone. So yeah.
Okay.
The thing to note is that it ending on Silverstone, most of the teams are based in Silverstone. So if you do have a crash in Spain that's like some minor parts that you're short on, you might be able to get them manufactured and made ahead of Silverstone. So you can then restock and bring some new parts to Silverstone. We also do upgrades. They'll do a lot of upgrades at Silverstone and bring new like small aero packages and things to test out and do whatever on, because like the McLaren, the Mercedes and Aston Martin factories are literally across the road from Silverstone track. Like they're next door to it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So very good place for them to do things like that.
Okay. Nice. So you're talking about triple headers like it's sort of the end of the world scenario and all this crazy shit's going to happen.
Yeah.
What's actually happened in the past already? Like what can you expect to see? Like are we like is there literally a good chance we're going to get to Silverstone and teams are not going to be there or like
No.
Okay.
Because of all of this, teams put a lot of planning into place and the drivers are a lot more careful, especially in the first race. So we are going to see, but this is what can make it more interesting because a team like Haas that have got nothing to lose and can throw everything to the wall, like what we saw in Canada, they chucked wets on for the beginning. They could just go balls out and go, let's fucking go for it in Spain. Who cares if we crash and we lose in the next two? We're probably not going to finish in the points anyway. Williams could do the same. And then they could, absolutely gun for it in Spain and get some points.
Okay. Assuming everyone else is going to try and err on the safer side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But, but then do other teams see them doing that and then go, fuck it, we'll just go for it. Like, who knows? But it's the question marks that a triple header brings up. I can't think off the top of my head of any specific, this happened and then it followed onto that. But it's just looking at this season already with the Williams drama we've had. And we've also had a fair amount of crashes this year. Like 5 people didn't finish in Canada. So the chance of us having a crash early doors, I think is fairly high. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Just hope it's not Williams. It's probably, let's be honest.
Will be.
Probably going to be Williams. Yeah. Austria in the middle of this triple header is also throwing up a few different things for us as well because it is a sprint race weekend. So it's our third sprint race weekend.
Yep.
Second, Charlie's saying.
Okay.
I think. Sprint race weekend. Obviously, we've spoke about it in the past, but for anyone that is joining us for the first time, the weekend is totally different. So Friday we have a free practice session, then we have a sprint qualifying, then on the Saturday we have a sprint race, and then the main Grand Prix qualifying, and on the Sunday we have a Grand Prix. So what that means for the Austrian Grand Prix is we've got essentially 2 extra sessions with the sprint qualifying and sprint race, where it's the third, Charlie's saying, where the drivers will be going all out, like attack mode, try and get the fastest lap, try and make some overtakes in the sprint, and things like that. So there's 2 extra sessions where things could go wrong for the car. You could have a mechanical issue, engine could blow, technical issue, driver could crash, anything like that. So Austria is really a spanner in the works there for teams. Mm-hmm. And there will be some team principals very stressed going into that race weekend. And there'll be some stern words that I imagine we'll see on Netflix next year.
And I'll see on Netflix in about 5 years.
Yeah, good. So that's like a massive thing for that.
So that's the second of the 3.
Yeah.
It's smack bang in the middle.
Yeah.
Nice. Has that happened before or is that?
I think this is the first time we've had a triple header with a sprint in the middle.
Right.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And also Austria is such a good track for overtaking. Like it usually is one of the best races of the year. Mm-hmm. Like Lando got his first ever podium there and that was a pretty crazy race during COVID. And yeah, it's always, we always get good racing around Austria. So if we've got the sprint race in the mix as well, I think we could be on for a very good Austrian Grand Prix. And to make things even better for the Austrian Grand Prix, weather is going to play a part. If you live in Europe, you've got shit weather at the moment, unfortunately.
All of Europe, you reckon?
Well, I mean, looking at, based on the Nürburgring 24 a few weeks ago, which was supposed to be 24 hours, they only got 7 hours of driving done because it rained the rest of the time. The 24 hours of Le Mans had a 4.5 hour safety car because it rained all night.
Yeah, and you told me that was the best 24-hour Le Mans you've ever watched.
Oh, mate, it was
4.5 hours isn't racing. It's a 20-hour Le Mans.
Yeah, luckily for me, that was the middle of our day in Australia, so we were out doing stuff. Whereas for everyone in Europe were probably asleep. So I watched like going into the night and then all of the last morning. So I kind of missed the safety car.
Okay,
but it was great. It was so good. But then also looking ahead at weather, there is potential rain for this Sunday in Spain, which is Guru. Could have a wet Spanish race, froth that. And then Austria, scattered showers and thunderstorms all weekend. Mm-hmm. So that could even throw another thing into the mix.
All right.
You know what I'm saying?
I do.
And then obviously Silverstone, it's just UK, weather's shit. So
yeah, that'll almost certainly rain.
Yeah, there's a reason I moved to Australia. But then, yeah, other things that make these triple headers special for F1 fans and especially if you're a Carlos Sainz fan or you live in Spain, Austria, or England. Carlos has never won the Spanish Grand Prix. I think he's stood on the podium, but he's never won it. And the fact that he's probably going to Williams next season almost confirmed. In fact, you know what? Fuck it. We can say Carlos texted me this morning.
Oh, yeah.
He said, Disc, put it on the pod. I'm going to Williams.
You're an idiot.
You know, if tomorrow morning we wake up and it's announced, this is going straight on Instagram.
Oh, great. Okay. I just loved that you were so confident that Carlos was going to Williams, your team.
Yep.
And your words to me were, this weekend is his last chance to ever win his home race.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say next. Is Carlos is probably never going to win his home race if he goes to Williams. So this is his last chance in a race winning car.
Okay.
I mean, I've got all faith that I have also said this week that Williams will be the constructors champions of 2026. So I'm throwing a lot of rogue statements out there.
Wonderful.
I'm saying Carlos won't win in a Williams, but Williams will win the championship in 2 years.
Okay.
Who knows?
So your prediction is Carlos at Williams next year, they suck. Then just as they're getting good, Carlos decides, nah, I'm off them.
I don't want that to be my prediction, but so yeah, like seeing Carlos win at his home race would be amazing. So yeah, look out for that.
Mm-hmm.
Also Fernando, but Aston don't look like they're doing anything this year. Following race is the home of Red Bull. It's literally called the Red Bull Ring. Used to be called the A1 Ring, and then Red Bull bought it. There's a massive like bull statue in the middle on the top of the hill. Have you seen it?
No.
It looks amazing.
Great.
So yeah, they always do like big things for their home event.
Okay.
So expect something big there.
Home event, that's not where their like headquarters is it? Did they just buy that ring?
Yeah, they bought that. Well, so Dietrich Mateschitz, I don't know what his name is. It's something like that. Charlie, look it up for me, please. Get the pronunciation up. He is the guy that he's like the founder of Red Bull. Passed away recently, like last year before. He's Austrian. So the team is an Austrian-owned team.
Okay. But
they're based in Milton Keynes in the UK.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then finally, British Grand Prix. We've got 3 potential British winners at the British Grand Prix. No. 3 potential British drivers who could win the British Grand Prix.
Yep. Potential British drivers. They're definitely British.
Yeah, I got my words.
Okay. Potentially could win.
Potentially could win. That's where I wanted to go.
All right. Great. You don't seem like you've had any. So who are we talking about? Sorry, Lando, Hamilton, George. Okay.
Yeah.
You haven't had any confidence in Mercedes all year, and suddenly you're throwing them up as they might win.
Yeah, because Canada, whatever upgrades they brought to Monaco or Imola / Monaco / Canada, like they are starting to. This is why I said earlier on, like the team are going in the right direction. The car's looking good. The drivers just need to get confidence. George put it on pole in Canada. The car is looking better as we're going along the season. I think the team are figuring the car out more. The drivers just need to get that confidence up as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right.
I will say though that if Mercedes are going to win at Silverstone, it will be because of rain. I don't think they'll win if it's dry.
All right. I like it.
Yeah.
That's actually a sensible prediction. As opposed to your Carlos Sainz one.
Yeah.
All right.
Which one? Going to Williams or?
Going to Williams, then getting sick of them just as they get good. Yeah, that is bold.
Good.
Okay.
Have you got a pronunciation, Charlie? Because I really want to make sure I got that right.
I can only find actual audio pronunciations. It's Dietrich, and it's spelt Mateschitz, Mateschitz.
I'm locking it in. That's Mateschitz.
Yeah, sure. I like it.
Right. Next race coming up, we've mentioned quite a lot, is Barcelona. So I thought we would look forward and have a little goosey gander into the brain of Disco and just see what his top 3 moments are from the Barcelona Grand Prix. Any Mercedes fans, look away for number 2. You already know what it's going to be. But for number 3, my third top moment, we'll start there. We have Senna versus Mansell in 1991.
Wheel-to-wheel stuff. Look at this. They're almost touching. Mansell gets in there. And Senna back on the inside.
Oh, it's just beautiful driving, isn't it, Skin? Just beautiful driving.
Is that
you need to go back and watch.
That's the end of the clip.
I'm not playing the whole fucking race for your skin.
They just drive down a straight.
Yeah, but it's a very famous. Do you see all the spots? Skin.
What?
Didn't they just drive down a straight?
What did I miss? There's just two
Do you remember
cars
when we
driving
were in
next to each
Melbourne
other.
and you showed me all them AFL kicks and I was like, wow, that's really cool. See how I was putting on a bit of a show for you to be interested in your sport, Skin?
I'm interested in the sport. I'm sitting here doing a podcast about it, but you've chosen a clip where two cars are driving straight.
Because look at this. Just
Wheel
look.
to wheel stuff.
Look how
Look at
tight
this,
they're getting.
Almost touching.
Look at that.
Mansell gets in
Look
there.
at that.
And centre back on the inside.
Did you see how tight they were?
Yeah, I see it.
Skin.
All right, sorry. No, that's cool.
It's a very famous shot of Nigel Mansell and Senna racing each other. It was a great race. Nigel had to fight his way through the field and it was brilliant.
Right.
And it was in an era where you like racing that close was like real risky because you could die.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, that context would have been nice.
Skin.
You know what we need? We need a Netflix season from way back then. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, there is
Drive to
also
Survive
a film
1980.
called Senna.
Yeah, well,
There's a Netflix series coming out this year called Senna.
yeah. I've watched the first one. I don't
That
remember.
clip is in it.
Okay. Well, I don't remember it being a big part of it.
No, it wasn't a big part of it, but it was definitely just shown because it's a cool looking clip. Okay, Mercedes fans, look away. Next clip, my number 2 moment. This would be a lot of people's number 2 moments because it was just amazing. In 2016, Lewis Hamilton, Nico Rosberg, very fierce title battle. It was all boiling over in the team. They were teammates and they were just huge rivals, and there were starting to be arguments within the team and disagreements within the team. Like engineers were moved around from driver to driver, and it was getting very political. And then this happened.
And it's Nico Rosberg and Hamilton's onto the grass, and Hamilton's had a massive crash, and he's crashed into his teammate. The two Mercedes come together.
Lewis gets such a launch off the top of turn 3, and I'm afraid Nico Rosberg has got to take every bit as much blame for that as Lewis Hamilton.
Evans.
This went on pretty much all season.
Really?
Not really crashing like that. This accident was talked about for the rest of the season. And it's still probably like people will still, in fact, 2 people have sent me this week that are Mercedes fans saying, I really hope we don't see this again. Yeah. But yeah, this was a very huge moment, quite controversial. Nico had one story about his energy recovery system like kicking in when it wasn't supposed to. So then his car slowed. Whereas Lewis's story was, I was going faster, made a move, and Nico made an illegal defense. Both arguments have merit because there was actually data to back up Nico's argument, but then there was also data to back up Lewis's. Charlie's got something.
As I was editing that, there's a bit straight after that where they cut to Nico after the race, and he says, "No, Lewis made a move, so I shut the space."
Oh, he says that straight away. He changes his argument fairly soon after. Okay.
Lying bastard.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a very controversial move. Lewis, just after this bit, throws his steering wheel like at the barrier, and he's like, I mean, you can see as he's sliding across the gravel, his head is in his hands. He's very disappointed, and Nico ended up winning the championship this year.
Wow.
So yeah, if you could watch any season and you could see like all, if you could like relive it live, that would be one I would love to relive because it was an amazing. I don't like Mercedes or Lewis, but it was just an amazing rivalry that season.
Okay. That sort of stuff does happen a bit though. Isn't there a similar clip of the 2 Red Bulls crashing into each other? What was that?
When he goes into the back of him, yeah, Daniel Ricciardo on Max at Baku, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So teammates do just hate each other regularly.
Not regularly, unless you're, Alpine and Ocon's your teammate.
Okay, sure.
But yeah, no, they do. It does happen quite a lot, especially moments like this. Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc in Ferrari, they came together like, I think 2 or 3 races in a row or something like that back in like 2017, 18 or something. Can't remember. But yeah, happens quite a lot, but not, I wouldn't say every season.
Sure.
But when it does happen, it's interesting. And number 1, obviously, I'm not an idiot. I'm not leaving this one out. This was not in the Formula 1 top 10 moments. It wasn't in Sky Sports top 10 moments, but it's in Disco's top 3 moments because guess what? Disco's the best. Williams winning in 2012. This was also, I will say, our last ever race win.
Another different winner, a new winner in Formula 1. It's Pastor Maldonado ahead of Fernando Alonso and Daniel Williams with their first Grand Prix victory since Juan Pablo Montoya in 2004.
Yeah.
What?
And now we haven't won since then.
They went 8 years without a win and then have gone another 12 years without a win.
Yeah.
Oh my days.
I know, it hurts to be a
poor
Williams
team.
fan. Right, I was celebrating so fucking hard that day as well. And like Pastor Maldonado is a meme of the F1 world, is a dog shit driver, paid his way into the sport. That's the only reason he's sat in a Williams car. And I'm gutted that he's our last race winner.
Oh, okay. Jeez,
Yeah.
Tell me what you really think.
No, that is what I really think.
That was sarcasm.
Yeah. But no, yeah, that was the last time we won. Interesting about that, I completely had forgotten that this was a thing back then until I rewatched this clip. The person talking to Frank immediately after the race is Toto Wolff, the Mercedes CEO, team principal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was like right before he then went into the Mercedes. He was like, he was working for Mercedes and everything, but he wasn't like team principal of Mercedes or anything at this point. And he had big shares in Williams. So was always around the Williams garage. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Something sad on the back of this one, though. I don't want to end the episode with a downer. Very shortly after that, a lot of people in the paddock, because it was Williams' first win in so long and we're such a historic team, like we've been around for a very long time, a lot of people went to the Williams garage to celebrate and went to the Williams motorhome to celebrate and, you know, pop some champagne and whatever. There was actually a fire in the garage. One of the cars or an oil tank or something was leaking and then there was a spark and it set the garage on fire. It meant that we lost a shit ton of tools and equipment and parts for the car. And it was just like a real shit time immediately after we had a race win. But it also led to one of the most humble times in F1 because all of the teams on the grid started donating parts to Williams.
No way.
So we had like donated parts and tools, like literally like spanners, air guns, things like that were just donated to us because we had nothing for the next race. Yeah. So like really great win. Everyone's wants to celebrate and then, yeah. And then shit happens and then the grid comes together. Yeah.
That is so strange.
Yeah.
Is it not meant to be a ruthless competition? Why are you just out here donating to your
Because you don't want to,
competitors?
because like it's just a shit thing to happen. You don't want, like, come on, Skip.
What, you don't want someone that just won a race to not win next week?
Mate, do you honest? We were not in any position to even challenge for a win the following week, even if the fire hadn't happened. That was our first race in 8 years, Skin.
Okay.
We were not competitive this season. It was a fucking fluke.
Okay. Yeah, no, I just find that strange. I don't know. I didn't expect teams
Oh,
to
look at Skin, Mr. Unhumble.
hand out gifts to their
Yeah.
enemies.
No, so you know when I break my leg, I'm not coming to you.
I don't consider
If I
you
crash
an
my car
enemy.
on the way home, I'm not coming to you, Skin. Oh,
I consider you a friend. I would
Okay,
help
okay.
you with a broken leg.
okay.
We're not competing for a world championship.
Oh, yeah, well, we could. That is a wrap on another lap of the Formula Fools podcast. We hope you've enjoyed the ride as much as we did. And now it's your turn to get in touch with the Fools family. No, to connect with us on socials and become a part of the Fools family. Facebook, we are at Formula Fools. Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter. Still don't use Twitter. Formula_Fools. Probably should start using it though, Skin. Come
Probably
on.
should.
Pull your finger out.
Yeah, okay, sorry, that is my fault. Something else we should use a little bit more is the reviews.
Yep.
People leave them, and we've said we will read them out. Still haven't got one for this week. I think we've read one ever. We're going to
Yes.
get better at that. So please keep leaving ratings and reviews, preferably 5-star ones. That would help a great deal.
Yeah.
But I mean, up to you.
Yeah, you can leave a 1-star one if you want.
If it,
The option is there.
It's there.
Yeah.
I'd appreciate it if you didn't, but I mean,
Yeah. That's fun.
see what happens.
Yeah. Right. Thank you for joining us at Formula Fools, where every turn is a chance for a good laugh. See you next time.